So I will start welcoming you and still manipulating here, admitting people. I'm very, very happy to host this presentation just miraculously in the beginning of this event. That is a wonderful one-week event of sharing ideas, spreading ideas, and exchanging and co-creating. And this is important, that we are going by our exchange and discussions, we are going to co-create the future. I will start with a short case study that is based on a real work with a client last year. And then since this is going to be in the format of the World Cafe, I'm going to invite you to work on taking ideas I will present further and brainstorm around how this can be developed further, how you can use it in your practice, how EMCC can also support us, coaches, mentors, supervisors, therapists, counselors in growing. So maybe two sentences about me to start. I would like to just say that my coaching was born with my heart. And this is what I want to say about myself. And I think it's a nice beginning to start this session that I have entitled, as you know, Moving from the Inner Shadows to the Lights Outside, and combining coaching and therapeutic photography to help the clients to make a sustainable change in life. So I'm going to present a case study and then discuss it to a discussion based on a process where during a coaching process, seeing not coaching as a process and not just series of sessions, I introduced the therapeutic photography in order to support the change for the client. And I'm using photography in various contexts in coaching. I'm using personal client snapshots photographs. I'm using symbolic associative photos, but I also use active photography in order to invite clients to creativity, to visual thinking, and also to learn new habits, everyday habits of a good life. So I will now start. The introducing to you to the case study. So that happened last year, 2020. I accepted the challenge of working with a woman, a young woman. She was 25 years old and she was dramatically losing energy in life. And she could not actually follow through with things anymore. So what the problem was that she didn't accomplish her grade at the university. She started struggling with depression and other symptoms of suffering. And in May, June 2020, it was beginning of COVID. It was already COVID, but still the beginning of COVID. Her university closed and the contacts with friends stopped. And she just returned home to her mother home. And she was again in this role of a daughter at home. And she experiences really losing of self-confidence, of a lot of tension and emotional discomfort. And so her mental health was deteriorating. And she approached me, I was recommended by someone, and she approached me with that problem. And her coaching goals, here you can see these coaching goals, were quite typical operational coaching goals. to live. She wanted to learn how to live in balance and start again to live in balance. She wanted to develop also artistic skills, since she used to write poetry, and this was also one of her goals. She wanted to feel more comfort around social interactions, to go out, to meet with people, to engage in groups, because she was quite not so active. And she wanted to start promoting her first poetry book. So these were her goals. Very operational as well as related to her interpersonal skills. I heard from the discussion with her, from our first conversation, I heard that she really needed to change the way she was living and processing the world outside, the world around her. She needed to stop processing the world around her as a stressful place where people could hurt her, when people could reject her, because her body, reacted with stress to these thoughts, and her mind responded with kind of an escape from the world. So depression was taking over. And it would be easy, to go to a therapist and start taking pills. She considered that, actually. She told me that, but she had done that before in the past already, and there was no permanent result in changing her life for the better. And I noticed that she was quite not, had no full access to her resources to make that change. And I was thinking what to do. I thought about a process that could help her to connect to her true self, because there inside she was, and I this is my drawing when I was reflecting on, when I met her, reflecting on her situation. You can see here inside this green color, she was really a young woman, a student, sensitive, talented. She wanted to live and start living independently. She wanted to be creative. But there she came back home and she somehow became a young woman, unable to live independently, kind of a problem for the family. And finally she got stuck, and I was thinking what to do. And there I decided to use photography to help her to let go these images of herself, to go out, let go out all these images of herself, of her true identity, about who she wanted to be, who she really felt she was. And this is the clue of my case, just to start this conversation with you now. I have combined this coaching process with therapeutic photography, and the coaching sessions were taking place once every 3 weeks. Plus, every week there was a quarter of an hour conversation on phone, to keep in touch, to support the relationship and the connection that was important for her. And also a special practice of, and there it goes, getting up regularly every morning, going outside, looking to the sun, noticing beauty, noticing changes in nature, taking a photo of something inspiring, and sending this photo to me through Messenger. And if you look at this slide, which I have prepared, I understood that exercise, that regular practice for her, the following way. Starting from the bottom. First, her task was every morning, before she started to think, doubting, whatever, going outside, touching the earth, awakening the senses, awakening the body and mind, and that in order to raise this physical and emotional energy. So this is like roots in the ground. I'm using this metaphor of a tree here. Then her task was to look to the sun. I literally asked her, just notice the sun, look to the sun, notice the beauty, make this, let's say, effort to know and concentrate to start noticing the beauty and changes in nature. Touch the nature, touch leaves, touch the ground, touch the flowers, because I wanted her to feel pleasure and joy and to raise curiosity. And there we move from the physical, emotional energy naturally to intellectual energy by raising curiosity, by awakening all the senses. So this is what I call trunk and branches. Then, after she noticed something interesting, I asked her, take a photo. And taking photos, it's something about, you can just notice, but it's going much more than just noticing. It's making a choice what to photograph and taking an action. It's creating. There we move from the intellectual to spiritual energy, to wholeness, to creation. It's something that helps us to transcend daily facts and and emotions, states of mind, what happens daily. These photographs, I call them fruits. And then, in addition, it's like the tree is really, with the branches, with the fruits, it's going to the world, connects to the world. It's a beautiful place for birds, other animals, to us as well, with fruits. I ensured her this connection with me, so she could be in the social connection, she could feel belonging and appreciation. So this is how I organized our work. Every 3 weeks, one session, every week, a short phone call, and every day, this therapeutic photography practice. And here, I would like to show you, step by step, let me read it, step by step, day by day, the brain changes, the cortisol level drops down, the dopamine rises. She experiences pleasure. Her curiosity raises. Thinking and focus capacities are better. She regains a sense of purpose and identity. This is what happens through daily practice that will boost the results of the coaching. And this is, of course, with the consent of her. I'm showing you a collage that I've made from some of her pictures. And just notice, observe what you can see here. And these photographs, if you can have a closer look at them, shall speak for themselves. And I encourage you now to write in the chat box, what do you see? What can you see here? And eventually, what are your associations? So I really encourage you to just, you can unmute also and say, what can you see here? Connection, excellent. Thank you, Raja. Connection, grounded, exactly. This is what I wanted her. Green, growth, exactly. We can see nature, growth, green, living, beauty, energy. The colors are energy, touching, feeling, connecting. Exactly. Facing the shadows, yes. Actively participating in her growth, sensitivity, connection. Feet on the ground, yes, excellent. We can see how much she takes these photos of her grounded. This word was also, we used that word, I asked her to ground. Steps and action, perfect. So you see from the assumptions, engagement involved, perfect. She's increasingly in the picture, that's correct, she is. And after some time, she senses, yes, senses all the awakening, touching, absolutely. After a time, she sent me also her selfie. I was very surprised body, self-awareness of her body. Absolutely. Perfect. Thank you for these comments. You're really doing this very nice. Yeah. A lot of colors. That was so different. This image is so different from an image we can have of something that we call depression. She was at that point to really collapse, and she just wanted to not to collapse. She wanted to grow again without any pills from her work, and she did. I also would like to show you few comments, our little discussions, on Messenger every morning. Here I translated from Polish because, of course, we've been communicating in Polish. Just have a look. A friend of mine sensed in our Messenger conversation that I have more energy than in the past. So if people notice it too, this is super. People at home are still sleeping, and I already have achieved my walk in the garden. I already achieved. Look at the words that she's using. Yet I feel the energy. That was something about bad weather in the morning. Today, I cut strawberries in the full sunlight, and I remembered about grounding. You can see this little feet here. So, I was seeing that. And I was so happy to see that because I was full of hope that she will do it. And she did. After 3 weeks, she told me I will continue. And she continued that for 4 months. She continued for 4 months, taking these photos every morning. And she really changed. I have contacted her 2 weeks ago when I prepared that session for us, and I checked how she is. And again, I asked if I can use this case. And she said, I'll be very happy if this can inspire other people to show how important is not only coaching and making an effort, but also my own work that I've done every morning, because that was a challenge for me to start waking up so early in the morning and doing that practice. And I'm still fit, I'm still fine, I'm happy, I'm living independently, I'm on my way, I'm on my journey, and I'm just in the gratitude for all that happened. And based on that case now, I would like to invite you to the following conversation and to the following brainstorming. Your reflection today, how coaching, and we coaches, mentors, counselors, can support people to reconnect to nature, natural wisdom, and healthy lifestyle to enable a change in social habits that lead the earth to the edge of ecological divide. In other words, how we can support people to reconnect nature, natural wisdom, healthy lifestyle, to help them and to enable a change of life, of social habits that today are not good for nature. And I will open the breakout rooms. You will have the chance to connect, to meet people here, to chat. You will have quarter of an hour to say hello, and to share ideas. And after we will come back, and I will ask you to put your several ideas, sharings to the chat box, and we will be able to, based on that, elaborate for our further next steps, conversation, ideas, and so on. It will continue. So there are 25 participants. So let me open five breakout rooms. I hope you're ready. 22. I see some people are leaving, and so we will need to have Oh, let's say four breakout rooms. Good. Breakout rooms opening. You are going to be assigned automatically, and abracadabra, you will meet some new people. We have it's 7 past 6 past 20, 25 past 6. So well, I will inform you through the broadcast. That time is going to finish soon. So anyway, you have like 15 minutes. Let's discuss how coaching can help people to help us to change the social habit. Ready? Go. So who wants to start?
Well, I can start. In our group, we shared the experience of following your trainings, Dorota, and using what we have learned with you in some of the with some clients, and how powerful and enjoyable. I would say that this is the main thing, how enjoyable it is to use something that is visual. For me, I shared that I don't like writing, and in many coachings, journaling is being used. I'm much more visual. So this approach was a lot more appropriate for me, and it was very enjoyable.
So joy. Thank you, Anna. Let's just put your ideas to the chat so we can see all of them and get inspired. They may seem sometimes simple, but there is depth in simplicity. Who wants to share?
Hi, this is Sunanda here.
Hi.
Yeah, I was part of Anna's group. We had a very interesting discussion, and I think I've come back out of it. I think with a better understanding of how the process works. But for me, two things that kind of, for purpose of reflection stood out was that in this process, the two ways to look at it would be maybe is that, one is that when we start off and as we go through the process and evolve, are we taking different kinds of pictures? That was one part of it. And the other part was that, maybe from what we took at the very beginning, looking at the same picture in a different way. Are we seeing things differently as we evolve through this process? So those are the two things that came to my mind.
Perfect. So taking different pictures and watching the same picture, but changing the perspective, correct?
Correct.
Right. Thank you, Sunanda. We have some ideas. First idea is coming in the chat box. Wonderful. Eileen asked to describe what is outside the window. Fantastic. It's just so simple, you might say, but so deep to really focus your mind and your senses on something that is somehow constructive, that is real, and stopping race of thoughts and focusing on a task that takes you to deeper breath, to calms the mind, and teaches you mindfulness, sensitivity, the power of connecting. Yes, what struck me, Jeffrey is writing, what struck me was the power of connecting as opposed to being disconnected, regardless modalities used. Yeah, can you maybe say a few words, Jeffrey? When you're saying connecting opposed to disconnecting, what qualities of the connection, disconnection?
Sure. We were discussing this, and I was struck by the label you use, connecting. So I believe there's power and meaning in that. So if the opposite of connecting is being disconnected. Yeah. So your coachee was probably disconnected somehow. And you sought to build that connection through therapeutic photography.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's perfect. When I realized, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeffrey. It's so good to go to this understanding deeper. That's exactly the point. You know, this case study comes from a COVID time, and we are still in these challenges of disconnecting on various levels, disconnected from herself because she could not access her really truly her powers, inner strengths to follow through, to live happily, disconnected from herself, but disconnected from the world, literally from her friends, from her university, disconnected also from life in the nature, in the outside world. So this was exactly the point, to support the disconnection, to make her connected again to herself, to the nature, to the living species around, to regain these energies. And the depth of that case, the depth of that practice is that we avoid saying it's for therapy. We really created a space, an opportunity for her to be resourceful and capable of doing the change on her own again. And you might say, well, is this just a therapeutic photography? But it's a daily practice. It's discipline, it's follow through, it's discovering that yes, although obstacles and challenges inside myself, I can do it and I can change it for myself. And learning that very fast, day by day, connected her to her resources, to the belief, to the self-trust, self-confidence that yes, I can do it. I'm seeing the results, and to the joy, satisfaction coming as a result of that. And that creates a perfect, much better condition for coaching. So we did coaching sessions. I'm not talking about coaching sessions here. They are just coaching sessions on these objectives that she wanted to achieve, and she did. But the problem was not that she didn't know how to achieve the objectives. The problem was somewhere else, in her disconnection. And this is where this creativity, but creation and connection was so meaningful. And that's a very good point. All right. Who wants to share? Christopher.
Yeah, I was struck by the image you used with the tree, and it had particularly the verticality, the fruits down to the roots. And I was looking at it, I was also wondering about the, well, if you will, the horizontal, that is the kind of the ecosystemic and the relational quality of it. Because individuals, clients, coaches, everybody basically grows in connection with and or relation of its wider ecosystem. And so as trees, we are always part of a forest or always part of a landscape. So as much as we can bring awareness to the physical, the emotional, the intellectual, the metaphor of nature and what photography can bring about very much is the relational quality that can also help us understand and access our own resourcefulness in relation of and supported by the people and the systems and the structures that we find around us. Yeah. So we can recuperate in nature as one way of accessing resourcefulness.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for this comment, Christopher. Yes, absolutely. And there are various practices that we can use. I used therapeutic photography because we can go to the forest regularly. I also, with many clients, almost all of them, I'm always talking about these practices of daily life that support energy and help to live in a healthy, positive, joyful life every day. And a typical practice that I propose to my clients is just to find a time during a day, typically in the morning, before they go to work and before they beside typical daily activities, to go outside for a walk, for a meditation, but to start the day with connecting to yourself. Like your soul is literally coming back to your body after the night. And once you're connected to yourself, you feel happier, more connected, more resourceful. You can start the day. Here, the element of creation was so important because I so much wanted her to have the results of tangible in her hand, results of her action. Yeah, but yes, you're absolutely right. Yeah, there are some comments still in the chat box. Bridget wrote, makes you're mindful of what you are trying to express and helps you define and share that. Yes, exactly. And you could see how this creative young woman, how it was visible in these photos that were so colorful, so happy, these photos, although she seemed as a person in coaching not so joyful. She struggled with challenges, but these images were like really letting go out her inner spirit, her inner soul. Yeah. Nature is metaphor of change, transformation. Absolutely. Yes. Beautiful. Noticing something of nature and ask what it might say. Exactly. Very good. I encourage my clients to step outside every day to connect with nature. Charlie wrote, I will now expand on my interest in photographing nature to encourage my clients to do the same. Very good. Happy to hear that. Yeah. Other ideas you would like to share from your breakout discussions? Let's check. Yes, Eileen.
So there's one thing that Christopher said, and we talked about it. I think Ellen was talking about the connection with nature. And I think if we take, we need to take more time, but I found that if I stop and feel, and I noticed that in the photographs, that your client was feeling and touching nature, I think that's a lot of energy and a lot of power is given to us. I find it's quite healing as well. And I used it a lot in the past through a traumatic situation. Just when I went for the walk, I sought out trees in my garden, and then later on, with another situation, I went to the park and just walked quietly up to the tree and felt it, because as Christopher's saying, there's a lot of connections with trees, with nature, its roots connected with other trees, and they rely upon each other for water, etc. But just the touching of nature, so we can connect with nature with our eyes and with our ears, but we can also connect with nature with our hands and feel that connection.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Yes. Also with the smell, yes. So all the senses, with this sense of with all the senses, and it is healing. I make the effort not to overuse that word, but I am absolutely. I do think so, that it is healing, and it's not only in the trauma context. It's just for all of us. We need these elements of healing, of reconnecting to nature, and it's daily healing. Yeah. Yes, Christopher.
I'm very animated today, so thank you. Another comment that was raised in our group, which I really appreciated, was that there is something very liberating and empowering in the way how the coachee or client can make their own choices how and what to photograph, depending on their chosen modality and whatever they have in terms of preference. So it is a very open and liberating way of engaging with that person and to empower them to just follow their own voice, own wisdom, their own curiosity, and then just experiment what happens when they engage with the outside world and get the results. It's not about technical expertise, but so much as to, or maybe it is, it's their choice. So it can be either way. But I appreciate that very much, this kind of openness and the invitational quality in it.
Yeah. Thank you, Christopher. This is such an important element that you just highlighted, and this is for me personally, it's one of the most important elements. Looking at the whole coaching process, that the person is absolutely aware and willing to create that process for herself, for himself. That this is really in the awareness of the client. It's their process that they create. It's not even like, I'm not using this word you are responsible for. I'm using this word, you create that for you. And I can also share with you now, based on what you just said, Christopher, that this client, I gave her this task. Let's say I proposed that for this 21 day. I said, let's try, let's make this effort. And then she decided, and I didn't ask, I didn't propose. She said, I'm going to continue that because it makes me feel good and I'm awakened. So she proposed that. But then after 4 months of our work, because our process took 4 months, when she came back to the city where she studied, the university reopened, she moved from a family home, and she started her independent life again. She involved her family members, her mother and brother, to communicate with these photographs as their conversations, like living distantly from each other. She asked them to send the photo from home, how garden is changing, what you do, and she used to send the photos from another city. She moved to a big city, showing the city where she was living. So she engaged, it goes systemic. She engaged really the family to that creative communication. That also every photo was a good reason to share something, what it is, where it is, how we feel, what do you see in the photo. So yeah, another element of that. All right, great. I would like to now, based on that, engage you to the second question. We have half an hour, so we can go to the second question. I will display this question so it's easier. This is a question: what can you do in your practice for your clients? Very short question. Even going beyond the nature and the walking, like you have mentioned several ideas of reflection, of creation, maybe art, maybe something else. I'm sure you might have still ideas from your own passions as well. So what you can do in your coaching practice, with the clients you work, you meet typically, to make these processes more focused and more supporting, changing lifestyles, changing the way people live. So like expanding the coaching process to making it bigger and making it larger, creating a larger context for the coaching process. Not only this objectives that the client is setting in the beginning, but holistically a lifestyle and the way we approach our planet, food and consumption, whatever comes to your mind, to support this social change in the world. So let's try this discussion. This is another brainstorming I'm inviting you today. And again, I will create the breakout rooms. I didn't pre-assign you to the breakout rooms. So maybe it's going to be a chance to meet the same or other people. And again, it's like 10 minutes, and we will come back and discuss. So enjoy. And I will now open the breakout rooms. Breakout rooms, voila. So again, I guess you had some interesting discussions. I hope you had ideas. Let's share. Who would like to share? And I encourage you also to write in the chat about your ideas. Yes, Charlie.
The three of us, we talked a little bit about walking and coaching. So finding the time, if possible, and you know, if there's a suitable area, and if the client is comfortable. But there is something different about being outside and the way that our thought processes go. Quite often there can be less distractions, and you can get quite a different depth of conversation. But I did say that the one proviso is to be careful where you choose, because I've only really done it once, but the route I took was quite a narrow path. So my client had to walk in front of me, rather better them in front of me than me in front of them. So at least it was their ideas. But yes, I would say if you're going to do outside, make sure you've got plenty of space. But yeah, no, very, very, very powerful.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing that. And such a good idea for these times we're living in, just to have this walking coaching sessions. Absolutely. And absolutely, I agree that there's something so different when we are outside. Completely. Yeah. Great. Thank you, Charlie. What other ideas?
Well, I was sharing in the small group that this is an interesting revelation for me to, help and enable clients progress with photography and pictures and connecting with nature. But I'd like to initially encourage myself to do that experience, and then, reinforce this in terms of clarity as well as authenticity before practicing it with the clients.
Yeah.
I could potentially discover myself, become more aware, and be in touch more intensely with my emotions, and therefore it helps me that much better for practice in coaching. Perfect.
Very good point. And what you can do is exactly fix a time in the day. I definitely encourage always to have that time for you in the morning, and check what you can do. It can be like one of these ideas here, standing in the window, walking outside, or whatever else, and just do it even shorter in the beginning, but every day, and every time reflect. How do you feel? Notice how do you feel, and what changes after 1 week, 2 weeks. That there will be changes for sure. So this is a great point to start. I can tell you, I wanted to say that in the end, but today is 15 November. It's just, I just realized yesterday that it's exactly 5 years since my book on this topic, One Image, Many Words, I can show you, I have it here, was published first in Poland, in Polish, in my mother tongue. It's exactly 5 years. And when I wrote that book, it was so much based on my practice as well. So I've shared in that in that book from my practice, and I've been practicing for many years, and I could see how that helped me. And only after I started feeling myself confident as a coach, I was able to expand this coaching practice and introduce other elements that I knew worked well for me. But I was at that time still, like in the beginning of coaching career, trying to be within the frame and the definitions. And only when I become more experienced as a coach, I started to be much more creative and creating these processes for the clients, and just using from my experience, what worked well, and being courageous and experiencing with that. So I definitely, it's a good point to start with itself. Jeffrey, you have asked a very good question in the, Jeffrey just left, okay, but still we will keep the recording. Jeffrey asked a question in the chat about if I can explain what is the difference between the therapeutic photography and the practice of gratitude, and I will cover this in a moment. But before that, I still have like 2, 3, 4 slides to explain a little bit the background, what is the therapeutic photography and elements that I've introduced to the process. But before that, I still would like to see maybe there are some still more people who would like to share about what you discovered through these conversations. So let's see, maybe 1, 2 people still can share.
Perhaps for what I found interesting, I was in a room with Danny, and Danny had the idea of using movies, and I found it very interesting. So which scenes you could relate to and why, and yeah, it's simple, but I think it's powerful. Yeah. Inspiration. It's all the time, and the task is just coming back to my topic, yes, in experiencing in the context of my coaching process. Yeah, great, thank you. Yes, Bridget.
We were sort of talking in our group about the client and reflecting when we might use it with the clients, whether it was something that was going to be a tool that would be in our box, if you like, as coaches, that depending on the client, we might introduce them to it, or whether it would be something we'd want to try and use to move them towards becoming more attuned and more thinking about nature and so on. So there was some discussion, particularly as well, around executive coaching, and it being perhaps a very new thought for executive coaching, and how could it be positioned in that arena, and sometimes whether somebody might want to use photos that were out there initially that they hadn't perhaps taken themselves, but that called to them, and that might then be a way to help people to start to think about how they could engage with that process, and see the difference in the reflections there.
Very much, yeah. Once we introduce these photos, also ready photos, associated photos of nature, to the executive room, something shall change. Yes, we are introducing the visual, the visuals that again connect us to the images we have in our memory and the emotions associated with them, and what we are sometimes longing to, because executives, I'm using photographs and photography, like active photography, also with anyone, with anyone, also with executives in the business context, in the corporate context. Although I'm not specialized in this niche of coaching, I'm very much working with in life coaching, but still it works for everyone, because even if people are in the role of the executive, they still, I think it's a very good topic, by the way, how we can bring it to the business, this element of connecting, that's a very powerful point, actually, to sensitizing to elements like ecology, our connection, dependence on nature, sensitivity, vulnerability, and so on. So I would encourage, yes, to go to the executives with these images, and opening this connection to this side of sensitivity, because we all have it. And then basically through this process, I've shown we were going through these 4 elements: body, emotions, intellect, and creation, transcendence, spirituality, spirit, but we all have them. This is how we connect to the meaning, to the purpose, and we gain energy and the motivation to change things for better in the world. All right, I will maybe quickly come back exactly to kind of a summary. So the basic assumptions that here I would like to mention for us to really remember about them, regardless the clients we're meeting, niches of the coaching, is that we really are working with humans who are, quoting after Christopher, who are like these trees, we humans connected to each other in societies, and we are creating this humanity. Our mental and physical health are one, not separate. The second assumption is that art, contact with nature, and movement reduce stress. Levels of the cortisol lower, and reducing stress supports positive life changes. But reducing stress will support a better working environment, a better leadership as well. Creation allows to move beyond, transcend the facts of daily life and uplift the spirit. And this, we know that this is exactly the not repeating the same every day, because everyday life will offer us the same tasks, the same routines, the same people we meet. But if there is an element of creation, we can transcend and connect to the purpose and the meaning and a better self-fulfillment. Also, and here one point about specifically photography, that photography brings the content to consciousness, that the content becomes visible, because what this is specific to photography, something we talk about, something we see, something, the way we can show what we feel, how we feel, what we want to experience. Or take an example of leadership and corporate business. Let's take photographs of our communication in the team. Go around the building and outside, and let's find these photography metaphors for that. Or let's find metaphors and take photographs and move around to show how we want to cooperate and be together as a team. These thoughts, these ideas, these sometimes ideas that are so difficult to describe with words, become visible, and we can talk about them because we have them before our eyes. So we find shape for these things that are difficult to find words without having a shape before. We can describe particular human experience. And another assumption that coaching, that we design the process. It's not this is how I see it, not a series of sessions. And what is therapeutic photography, and how it is different from the practice of gratitude? I used the definition here. This is a very good one, a very straightforward one, that therapeutic photography involves taking, analyzing, and using for us for the purpose of the personal healing, growth, understanding, whether they're done consciously or unconsciously, being actively constructing, analyzing, reflecting on photographs by pairing it with creative writings. You can be able to learn more about yourself and how you see the world. So basically, therapeutic photography is really photography. It's taking photographs and thinking and contemplating them and using them as a way to find words, finally, but before words, images, to describe whatever you want to describe, how you feel, how you want to live, etc., how you want to communicate, how you want to be in the relationships, etc. And it does not involve any therapist. The therapeutic photography is self-organized practice. And the person is just competent to do it. And this is how you can combine it with other processes like coaching or mentoring to make it creative, more whole, to find wholeness as well, and to find to bring to the conscious things that are so difficult to grasp with words immediately. And another question which I didn't cover with you, there was not time, is what EMCC can learn from this and how it can support us. But I guess there are a lot of ideas about it already that you covered. If there are still ideas, you can write in the chat. You can send me an email later on. Also, if you have ideas how EMCC could support us coaches to learn and to grow our practices, to develop them holistically. And before we finish, because the time is running, and before I thank you, my last sentence, combining coaching with well-being practices and creation is a mode to help people to reconnect to their natural strengths of self-regulation and wisdom. It is a transformative and integrative process of self-discovery and self-reconnection. This is what I believe. And to all of you, with a very big thank you for being here, joining this conversation, working on elaborating the ideas and sharing them and contributing to this session and to this event. I would like to offer you my newborn ebook, Peace and Joy at Home, for the Power of Photography, that was published actually today. It's going to be on my website today. But I would like to just share it with you and send you. The only thing I need from you that you write me an email, because I do not have access to your emails. So those of you who wish to receive it, it's an inspirational ebook, Dorota, that you can, that I would be very happy to share with you and offer you. Just write me an email at dorota@photoincoaching.com and I'll send you this ebook today or tomorrow. I will now stop sharing, and maybe for this last final minute, you can you can open the video so we can see faces. Thank you for these comments in the chat. I'm very happy that I could share with you some of the ideas on photography and coaching mixed together, going beyond the definitions, bravely using the word provocatively, maybe even the word of therapeutic photography, because there's so much effort done in the environment to differentiate coaching from therapy. It was not about therapy, it was about therapeutic. So the photography that has the therapeutic influence and therapeutic healing influence on us. It's just the term that's being used, so I didn't use the term, but really showing how we can create processes that will address several challenges that our clients have inside them. And we are living in times when we need this healing. And I just think that this is the way to create our coaching practice more and more powerful. And also more self-fulfilling for us by adding and using the strengths and the passions that we all have, and integrating ourselves and creating, developing and growing in a unique way. So each of you, each of us is unique, and our uniqueness, it's a convergence, of everything we went through in our lives, our experiences, not only success stories, but these more difficult ones, that when we learn things and that we have this deep knowledge of what life, of what life can bring and how we can move through and make steps, all our passions and anything, you can just use your uniqueness to build on that further yourself. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best and a great continuation of this event. And I hope that we will meet soon again, maybe just in a moment in one of these sessions, and tomorrow and after tomorrow. Thank you.